digital transformation of the Thai financial industry. First of all, I would like to introduce myself. I am Tawanrat and I will be your MC for the whole event. Now I would like to introduce you more about our webinar today. Our background here, we are the Southeast Asia FinTech Series webinar, and we highlight on the opportunities in Southeast Asia and help UK FinTech companies to build a network as they are looking to expand in the fast-growing markets, just like in Indonesia, Philippines, Malaysia, Vietnam, and of course in Thailand. And the agenda for today will consist of welcoming and an opening speech. Next up, we will have 3 insights and knowledge sharing by Bank of Thailand, Thai FinTech Association, and SCB 10X. Together, we have a 1 roundtable discussion, and lastly will be an exclusive financial inclusion session with Rails Bank. Now, let's first begin our webinar with a welcoming message. We will have Kun Francesca McKee, Head of Financial Service APAC, Department for International Trade or DIT, and Kun Bunyarat Kiti Warawut, Country Director, Economics and Sustainable Development, British Embassy Bangkok. They will give an opening speech of this webinar and introduce us on the sole purpose of this event. Please welcome.
Hi there, Sawadika. Good afternoon to colleagues in Asia and good morning to those dialing in from the UK. Really delighted to have everyone here today for our second webinar in our UK Southeast Asia series. So for those of us who've joined so far, we had our previous discussion in the Philippines and now really delighted to kind of delve into Thailand today. So hopefully you know me. My name is Francesca McKee. I'm the Head of Financial Services for Asia Pacific for the Department for International Trade based in Singapore. So I'd like to first just really welcome everyone today and in particular our speakers. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Those from the Bank of Thailand, from the Thai FinTech Association, from SCB 10X and from Rails Bank as well. So really appreciate the knowledge and experience that you'll share with us today. As I mentioned, this is the second in our UK Southeast Asia series. Kathy kindly summarized it. We're helping to bring UK fintechs into the region and provide depth and insights and knowledge sharing with the ecosystems around the region. So really delighted to delve into Thailand today. So we feel that it's really important to hold discussions with a region where 40 million new consumers went online this year, according to Google and Temasek, and also where 3/4 of the citizen population of ASEAN have insufficient access to financial services. So it's really imperative, and demand for financial and fintech solutions has never been higher. And luckily, in the UK, which is where I represent today, we have fantastic fintech solutions. So the UK is a huge fintech hub. We had about £4 billion of investment into the fintech sector last year, and there are over 1,600 fintechs in the UK. And luckily, we have 15 today who are part of our program, who have logged on and will share a little bit of detail about their fintech during this session today. So, we believe the UK is a leader in this sector, particularly areas like payments, where we're seeing kind of UK fintech firms supporting core infrastructure, access to real-time payments, look at kind of cloud-based technologies. And that's why we have Rails Bank today, who will share a bit of an in-depth discussion into their experiences in the region and the UK, particularly in the area of financial inclusion, which is really important, as I mentioned earlier. So I'd now like to hand over to my colleague, Kun Bunyarat, who will talk us through a little bit of detail on the UK's Prosperity Fund, economic reform programme for ASEAN and the Thai implications. Over to you, Phong.
Good morning, everyone who joined from Thai side, and of course, good morning for those who join from the Western areas, and good afternoon for those who join from Thailand. So I'm very pleased to be able to speak to you all today because I believe that Thailand has a potential as a market and partner for UK companies. Our embassy in Thailand has sought to build a government-to-government partnership with Thailand Financial Services for over the past 5 years. And I've been consistently impressed by how innovative and open-minded the Thai regulators are. If you don't already know the fintech sector here in Thailand, I think you may be surprised by how much. And often when I speak to my colleagues in the UK or in the Bank of England, they were very impressed too. So Thailand has brought forward various innovations in fintech, including the national prompt pay system, which is far more advanced than traditional payment architecture. And Thailand has become the first country to create specific regulations for digital assets. So we are very honored today to have Kun Tipsuda and Kun Ajari with us. They are two of the most senior and experienced figures in Thai fintech sector who can tell you more about fintech in Thailand. So in our embassy's work with Thailand Financial Services, we've sought to build a partnership with Thailand on many levels, including through reciprocal visit and policy discussions. And currently, as Francesca mentioned, we fund programs of work under the UK ASEAN Economic Reform Programs to promote inclusive growth and financial access to fintech in Thailand. So the program is supporting the continued development of regulatory environment for fintech, with a particular focus on cybersecurity, eKYC, and fintech ecosystem. So these programs aim to bring kind of also accounting standards in the financial sector to be in line with international commitments and develop accounting treatments for digital assets. Separately, we have another stream of work under kind of climate change programs. With that, we are working with Thai financial regulators to promote green bonds and the adoption of climate disclosures, as well as climate stress tests. So I'm very happy, of course, to give you more detail about our work, if that can be helpful, or please feel free to ask my colleague Kun Mei. And I really hope that this virtual roundtable will give you an introduction to Thailand and pave the way for you to consider operating in this country, which is kind of the second largest economy in Southeast Asia. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Francesca Maki and Kun Punyarat Kiti Waravit for a very warm welcome and yes, an overview for us to know the purpose of this webinar, of course. Thank you. Also, thank you for hosting this webinar in order for us to better understand Thai fintech ecosystem, as well as to share the knowledge of digital transformation of the Thai fintech industry. All right, and so here we are with the upcoming keynote session on the topic of enabling fintech ecosystem and the role of central bank by the Bank of Thailand. The objective of this session is to help citizens and businesses to further understand the role of central bank and their responsibility within the emerging fintech ecosystem. Please welcome Kun Ajari Supirod, Director of Fintech Department, Bank of Thailand.
สวัสดีค่ะ Good morning, everyone from the UK. And of course, good afternoon, everyone here in Bangkok. It's certainly my pleasure to join you guys today. And thank you, Francesca and Kun Fong, for inviting me. Certainly, I believe that this kind of session will be something that can help bring, our two countries closer to keep us informed of each other's development and on the regulatory front and on the business front as well. So please allow me to thank again the Department for International Trade, the British Embassy Bangkok, Thai FinTech Association, and also Techsauce Media for this. Of course, I'm sure that you agree with me that FinTech will be very important in, the world that we are entering into. Of course, being more digital, the new era of doing things online. Certainly, this will help create more opportunities for businesses, both, new players and existing incumbents, and also that people will be able to gain access to financial services, more cheaply, with more efficiency. And also, I'm thinking that risk management measures could also be improved as well. And well, as you know, that we are still kind of stuck with the COVID situation. But one good thing that comes with COVID is that it's kind of like, someone press a fast forward button on digital transformation. So basically, on our end as well, some initiatives are moving, more, in more speed than we expected. And new normal is basically, the word that everyone now understands and trying to adjust to. So, of course, as one of the financial regulator, Bank of Thailand certainly plays important role here. We are not just the regulator; we are also enabler of the ecosystem that will benefit, Thai people in general, and certainly FinTech will play a big role in that part. A lot of innovation on that's going on right now, and today I'm very pleased that I'll be able to share with you guys a few key initiatives by the Bank of Thailand on digital transformation and FinTech. The first one that I like to mention, actually Kun Fong mentioned a bit about that, is about our payment infrastructure or PromptPay. PromptPay is basically online fund transfer mechanism via, bank channels like mobile banking or even ATM. But I think the Bank of Thailand has been promoting PromptPay initiative for the past 4 years, and I would have to say that it's certainly a game changer for us. For now, PromptPay has been widely accepted. Basically, most people use it even for daily purchase, like buying noodles and paying like 10-20 baht back to their friends since the fee is zero. And gladly that for now I think there are quite a high number of registration for the PromptPay program, whether by the National Digital ID number or their mobile phone number. I think it's about 55.1 million IDs. And so far, there are, quite very active transactions using PromptPay. I think the maximum transactions per day actually reaches 20 million transactions. So that's something that's really positive on our side. And we actually have another initiative which leverages on the PromptPay. That's the QR code payment. And I think especially during the COVID period, people don't want to touch cash. They turn more into online payment using QR codes. There are really a jump in registration of QR code payment. I think for now there are like 6 million IDs of merchants who are accepting payment via QR code. So I think with prompt pay, with QR code payment, that's certainly making us see that traditional ways of payment, such as using checks or going to the ATM machines and withdraw monies or going to branches, that's really declining. So it's actually a good sign that Thai people and Thai economy are moving forward into the new digital world, and certainly this is something that we will continue pursuing and driving. I believe that there are still more rooms for innovation, for business solution that can be done with this. So that's the first exciting initiative that I would like to share with you. And since we are on payment front, let me also share with you about the Bank of Thailand exploration on central bank digital currency as well. Well, the Bank of Thailand has been trying to explore the technology behind and relevant mechanism of wholesale CBDC since the past 2 years, and like up until now, 3 phases have already been completed. We actually at first we tried to see if wholesale CBDC can be an alternative to RTGS settlement between banks, and then the next phase we try with bond issuance and settlement to see how things would work if we use wholesale CBDC instead. And the third phase, we actually join forces with the HKMA. It's called Internal Land Rock, trying to link up and see if transfer across the two central banks would be possible. And I think that was complete late last year, and we launched a report earlier in 2020. And for now, we are still continue our journey on CBDC exploration. There are actually 2 tracks going on right now. Domestic track, we are working with a really big corporation in Thailand, SCG, to see if we can use CBDC to move a bit closer, not just wholesale level, but if this can be used for the corporate payment, for the supply chain financing, and so on. And for international track, we are still partnering with HKMA, and hopefully we will be able to test out with more central bank joining, more corporate joining. And national digital ID is also something that has come a long way in Thailand. There are quite a few test cases by banks under BOT regulatory sandbox with the cross verification for bank accounts opening. And just in early November, we extend not just for bank account opening, but also extending to securities companies, asset management companies, insurance companies, and lending as well. So we'll see about that. So now there are quite a few things ongoing in our sandbox. So please pray for me that everything will be working out just fine. Peer-to-peer lending is also another area that we are actively driving. Currently, there are now 3 peer-to-peer platforms that are testing out in our regulatory sandbox. So hopefully, more access for the people to finances or SMEs will be improved. And we are not stopping at that. There are quite a few things that we are trying to pursue in the future as well. One is trying to adopt the ISO 20022 standard for payment system. This is to help enable richer transmission of business data, and hopefully we can leverage on this standard for future innovation and connectivity. And we also have a few initiatives on data, like transactional data, and trying to, make that more useful for the owner of the data. Digital personal loan is something we recently launched. People can submit the application without, having to have their salary slip. They can use alternative data and digital footprint for that. And digital factoring also, we launched a hearing recently, and we are now we are fine-tuning the framework for digital factoring for SME finance, access to finance. So this is just a quick overview of, what has been going on in Thailand. And I'm sure that I can share that with you later on. So thank you.
Very much. Thank you. And hope to see you again in our next webinar, of course. Thank you, Kun Natari Supiro, Director of FinTech Department, Bank of Thailand, for sharing a very impressive information to know that how much payment infrastructure have been developed and applied by Thai people. Yes, together with many more initiatives to go from the Bank of Thailand. And next on our agenda is a keynote session sharing an insight on challenge and opportunities of Thai FinTech by Thai FinTech Association. The objective is to provide in-depth information and various challenges, opportunities occurred in the Thai FinTech industry. Please welcome Kun Tipsuda Thawaramon, Chairperson, Thai FinTech Association.
Good afternoon. Good morning for those in the UK. I'd like to thank the UK government and the British Embassy, Kun Fong, and Kun Francesca McKee, and Techsauce for making possible this FinTech series. I think it's great that, the work that you've done to bring all of us here. It's my pleasure and honor to be here. The initiative comes at a very opportune moment as businesses and consumers are demanding digital solutions more than ever. And this year, we've seen quite a number of new FinTech players entering the scene. On the fundraising side, as Kun Ajari has updated, 3 peer-to-peer lending platforms serving individual borrowers have been admitted to the Bank of Thailand Sandbox scheme. From the SEC side, 2 more crowdfunding portals have been approved by the SEC. So that brings the total number of crowdfunding portals to 4. We also have 4 ICO portals, which have been approved by the SEC. On the investment advisory side, I think that's, we're doing pretty good there. We've had several new robo-advisors. Some are pure FinTech companies, but a few are affiliated with banks. The crypto asset businesses grew especially quickly after the law was passed in 2018. And we now have 11 licensed intermediaries, 7 of which are crypto exchanges. There have been a few more regulations this year, which spelled out the requirements for real estate-backed token offerings, thereby giving investors more confidence. I believe the SEC is also planning to propose an amendment to the securities law to pave way for securities token offering, although the process could take a long time. On the other hand, I think withholding tax on capital gains and lack of clarity about tax upon issuance still remain an obstacle for market development. In the meantime, as Kun Ajari said, the Bank of Thailand continued to expand the scope of experiment with central bank digital currency from wholesale interbank CBDC to corporate transactions. And they're planning to explore expanding to retailers later on. And I wish I will see that phase soon. And regulation for digital financial services, a host of them are also under consideration. Now, when Thailand went into a lockdown in March, most companies had to postpone their annual general shareholders meetings for months. And the situation highlighted the need for a reliable e-meeting and e-voting system. And a few months later, we saw some companies experimenting with e-voting using blockchain technology. Now, digital ID is a key component to this. Back in 2019, there was an amendment on the law on electronic transactions, making the Electronic Transactions Development Agency, or EDDA, the standard setter and regulator for digital ID. EDDA is working on the regulatory framework, and they are collaborating closely with many players in this space, from the government ID issuer to the digital government agency to the private sector players, not only the National Digital ID, which is the bank consortium, also other private sector players as well. I have great hope that digital ID will be a foundation for greater efficiency and accessibility in financial services in the near future. I have to say, though, that even though, in spite of all these developments, small and new FinTech players still face a lot of challenges relative to their bigger counterparts. In fact, while regulators have opened up the playing field, it's the big players who benefit from the new opportunities. And I believe it's not so much about technical expertise as about the regulatory landscape. First, there may still be barriers from regulations that were originally designed for traditional and bigger enterprises. The principle, same function, same rule, is used by regulators everywhere in the world, even though the operating mechanisms could be very different with modern technology. Second, not all financial services are open to competition. Some services, such as securities trading platforms, are still restricted by law, which effectively gives the Stock Exchange of Thailand a monopoly status. Others, like alternative lending, the kind being permitted by the Bank of Thailand, they're permitted, but may face impediment from lack of clarity whether their business models would be approved by regulators. Third, the emergence of important new regulations, such as the law on personal data protection, is a new challenge for everyone, and especially so for new small players who do not have the same access to the necessary resources for compliance. So I hope today's event and subsequent UK-Thailand FinTech Day will be another good opportunity for us to have an open dialogue, for our regulators to share views on how to create an ecosystem conducive to FinTech development, for our private sectors to share their best practices and form partnerships that are mutually beneficial, and for Thai FinTech companies to find technical solutions and necessary know-how to overcome their challenges. Thank you.
Much ค่ะคุณทิพย์สุดาถาวรมร Chairperson Thai FinTech Association for your sharing. Yeah, it's very interesting to know that even though the FinTech situation right now are facing many challenges, but yeah, I believe that many divisions are now collaborating, and working hard to support Thai FinTech to reach its goal in the near future. Thank you. All right, and our last topic of today's insight and knowledge sharing of the fintech industry is digital transformation case study in financial sector by SCB 10X. The objective is to share the experience of digital transformation cases in the Thai financial sector to help with further understanding and strategies planning. Please welcome คุณเดชพล แหลมวิไล Head of Strategic Partnership SCB 10X.
So good morning to those in the UK and good afternoon to those in Thailand. It's been my great honor to be one of the speakers in this very important event. So the case that I'll be sharing with you is a digital transformation case for one of the largest banks in Thailand, which is SCB. But a little bit of background about myself. So prior to joining as a head of strategic partnership at SCB 10X, I was in the strategy team in SCB for as long as I can remember, about 8 years. So I was at the very start of the embarkment of the digital transformation of SCB, and very well aware of the reason, which I'll be sharing with you more of the why as one of the profitable organization and one of the reputable financial institution as to why we need to really transform our business model and everything about what we do in Thailand as one of the leading banks. So one of the things that we see coming about 5 years ago is the tech disruption, and that was even before the word kind of the fintech kind of become a popular in Thailand. And the reason being that is because before the age of the technology enablement, business is about how much capital you have. and how much capital you can deploy to build out the physical infrastructure of the business. So SCB, about 10 years ago, we kind of rolling out all this branch as an infrastructure, but mainly just to be closest to the customer. And that way we can serve and we can offer financial product and services to the customer in the best experience possible. But then after a while, the app economy came out, right? And now to get access to the customer, it become very much easy and doesn't require that much capital anymore. So what happened is you only need a couple of, a very good tech developer to be able to put together an app to offer any kind of service in the hand of the customer. So that become where is the best experience in the eyes of a consumer and customer is. So, and we can see this disruption 5 or 6 years ago, and we kind of thinking to ourselves that we need to start doing something about this. Another thing that is very, I would say, is we see this actually as a threat at the beginning, because being a big and reputable organization sitting on a P&L, which is very big, a lot of this threat come unnoticed. And some of the fee and market share that's been getting from a lot of the players, we don't actually really see that taking impact. So it's kind of like a death by a thousand cuts rather than a big kind of disruption like in the year 1997, where everyone knows it's coming, but this one is come unnoticed. So back then we decide that we need to start doing something before the impact starting to be realized by a lot of the financial institutions in Thailand. So that's when we start embarking on the digital transformation, in which we put a lot of capital into transforming the existing business of the banks. And a lot of the about 5 years ago, that journey we plan to take about 4 years to revamp from the foundation into the business model of what we're trying to do. And along the way, we see a lot of the fintech that's starting to take place in digital payment, digital lending, and also investment, as well as the larger tech giants such as the Google of the world, Amazon of the world, as well as the Chinese tech giant like Alibaba and Tencent moving into the space of financial services. And the likes of Grab and Gojek start to gain scale during the 4 or 5 years that we're embark into digital transformation. One of the things that we tackled first when we did the transformation was around process and technology. So as you may all know, bank has been built around 1970 or 1980. So we still was relying on the previous era tech like mainframe and all that. So one of the things is these legacy systems that we need to kind of put in place new technology that would enable us to going digital. That was quite a big piece of work that all the financial institution has to go through. Also, the process and the way how it's being designed to support all this operation was also designed back then, where the technology is still not able to enable a lot of the things that we can do today. So these are some of the things that takes quite a long time for any financial institution to revamp, to be able to get the first piece of the jigsaw into places. So that's the first thing. The second thing is the people and culture. So banking is actually around the risk management. How do we make sure that nothing get lost, there's lowest risk possible, and all sort of things. So the people and culture are very much thinking about how to do things in the right way and not able to accept any mistake or error in the way we do, right? That's the only way we can ensure trust by the customer. But the world of the technology is different. So the way how startup and fintech are operating is, it's kind of like fail fast, learn fast, and do it again. And this has been the major shift that, and probably the most difficult hurdle for the banks who are always thinking about how to get everything right. We cannot afford something to be wrong. And that is the thing that we spend most of the time trying to trying to change the mindset of the people organization and trying to create an environment where people can experiment and try, and it's okay to if something does not work out. So that is another thing. The second thing that SCB as a group is trying to do to shift the people mindset and culture in the organization. And third, and very important one as well, is around the business model. So what are some of the new business model that we should be thinking about? So before, bank was heavily reliant on the fee-based, transfer 25 baht, 35 baht per transaction. And with the rise of prompt pay, the more efficient structure and the zero fee, I think that shift a lot of the thing in the financial institution industry, and also kind of, give us a big nudge on we need to start thinking about how to monetize financial service in a new way that customer is willing to pay for, instead of, we are becoming kind of the monopoly and be able to charge the transaction fee because people doesn't have any other choice. So that then SCB kind of come out with the upside down strategy in which we're thinking about, we need to rethink everything that we do, right? Something which used to be big, like physical infrastructure. Before it was relevant because that's the way how we serve our customer the closest. Now it looks like it's a cost center because now we can serve customer through the digital mobile app or digital means possible. So that is one thing that why we say it's upside down. What used to be big maybe needs to be more lean and smaller. What used to be small, the digital penetration, we need to put that scale that to be big, very big time. And the second thing in terms of the business model that we're thinking about is how do we start thinking about, personalization in terms of the experience, right? And what kind of ecosystem that we need to put in place so that we can be anywhere, but actually we know that we cannot build all those by ourselves. And that's why partnership is a very important thing that we need to do in this age of digital, right? We cannot be good in everything, but we know who are good in something, and we're trying to, work together with the ecosystem player, whether it's a fintech, whether it's a tech giant, or whether it's existing banks where we already have a customer base and infrastructure. How we put this together so that we can serve the customer in the best way possible. So maybe one of the phrases that I like the most is where, Bill Gates was saying in the year 1990, he said, banking is necessary, but bank may not be. So how can we provide banking service to customer, but we don't have to necessarily build out the whole infrastructure by ourselves. We can partner up to leverage the best of everybody and still offer the same kind of experience that the customer would perceive this has a higher value. I think that's a key thing. So these are some of the things that SCB did in the past, and it's a continued journey. So it's not going to stop today. We're still in the middle of the journey, and we believe this journey will last for quite a while. And to be able to do this, I think speed and agility is the most important thing. How do we move fast, adapt to the customer needs, and offer customer with the product that they perceive as the highest value? I think that's the kind of a principle that we try to adhere to and put the customer first. And we can serve the customer well, then the monetization, the other thing, we believe that it will follow. So that's the kind of the case study that I want to share with you. And thank you very much.
Very much ค่ะคุณเดชพล หลามวิไล Head of Strategic Partnership SCB 10X for sharing SCB digital transformation journey, which is very exciting to me actually. Because I couldn't believe that there will be one day that SCB will be more than just a bank. right? But become a banking system that is evolving each day regarding technology, people, culture, business, and business model. Yeah, very amazing, and looking forward for your next journey. Thank you. Up next, we are going to have a 30 minutes roundtable discussion about the fintech industry. Host and moderate by คุณชวรัตน์ ยงจิรนนท์ Global Content Editor of Techsauce Media ค่ะ and I believe she is already here with us. So, good afternoon คุณชวรัตน์
Good afternoon คุณแอมมี่ or คุณธวรรตน์นะคะ
How are you doing?
It's been a very interesting day today. I've been running around in Bangkok, but definitely it has been exciting indeed to know that there are further developments in fintech here in Thailand, especially with the partnership with governments such as the United Kingdom. I'm excited to start the panel soon.
Yeah, let's meet the panelists and start the panel discussion.
Okay, thank you. All right, so as we all know, fintech has been an issue that has definitely been something that everyone has been trying to develop in each of their country. Here in Thailand, we have definitely been developing ours with a collaboration of various entities, whether it is the private or the public sector, and of course with other government players as well. So today, I'm very happy indeed that we are able to sit together virtually and talk about the issues of fintech and how it has developed here in the country and the region with three of our key speakers that you've just listened to today. And that is Kun Jari Supiro, the Director of Fintech Department of Bank of Thailand. And then there is Kun Tipsuda Thawara Mara, the Chairman of the Thai Tech Association, as well as Kun Detapon Lam Vilai, the Head of Strategic Partnership of SCB 10X. Hello everybody. Welcome to our panel discussion. Kun Acharya, Kun Tipsuda, and Kun Detapon. First off, our talk is about enabling fintech ecosystem and the role of it's about the digital transformation of the Thai financial industry. I just want to check that you can hear me. Everything's okay?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
All right, so access to finance is unarguably one of the key requirements for economic growth here in the country and the rest of the world. Fintech is said to help increase the access to finance for both individuals and businesses. How true do you think this is for the case of Thailand? Anyone is welcome to answer. And of course, I want to get a viewpoint of each and every one of you. Okay, why don't I start with Kun Acharya, as coming from the Bank of Thailand, how do you think the development has been here in Thailand? Hello, can you hear me?
I'm sorry, but you're breaking up a bit on my end.
Okay, let me repeat the question again. The question is, Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Hello?
Yes, but it's still breaking up a bit, but it is getting better.
Okay, all right. The question is, how do you think fintech has developed here in Thailand? Can you hear me? Okay, well, why don't we start with another person first while we try and fix the audio with คุณอาจารีนะคะคุณทิพย์สุดาคะ as the chairman of the or chairperson of the Tech Association, my question again was about access to finance. It's a very big thing that we really want to be able to develop here as a developing country. Do you think that it has developed well so far here in the country?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I think in Thailand, fintech has developed to play that role somewhat, but not as much as it should. I think we're doing really well on the investment advisory, investment services. In the past 3 or 4 years, we've seen the rise of many robo-advisors. Some are pure fintech plays, and some are even affiliated with traditional players like banks. So I think that's not a problem there. But if you look at the financing side, the fundraising side, I think although we have peer-to-peer lending and crowdfunding platforms, I think they're still limited in scope and impact. And I think that the problem is, the regulators here, we play I shouldn't say we, but I was a former regulator. So regulators play a dual role of facilitating access to finance and also for investor protection. And normally it's the latter role that's the dominant role. So, given our long history of merit requirements for fundraising, it's not an easy task for the regulator to strike the right balance between the two objectives, because they're still uneasy about permitting risky ventures to raise capital from the public. And, they will naturally want to rely on known players and proven mechanisms for investor protection. So that seems to favor the traditional players. And I was involved when I was with the SEC, I was involved in pushing forward the first set of requirements for crowdfunding 5 to 6 years ago. And it took years after our rules were passed before the first funding portal could be launched. And, I'm sure we will see a similar challenge with something riskier, like, with ICO portals. So what can we do about it? I don't think there's much we can speed up in terms of uncollateralized lending and risky financing. It's the regulatory mindset that's really hard to change. And I really empathize with them more. But I think, we could switch gear and do a little more on the collateralized lending space, where the risk can be made lower. And we already observed that, things are happening in the decentralized finance. In that DeFi space, we see people lending, putting cryptocurrency as pledge and borrow another crypto in the form of stable coin. So it's already possible for that kind of things to happen. So why not try to apply that kind of principle to the real world? So say, with technology like blockchain, we could explore the idea of registering non-financial assets like buildings, lands, trees, not just shares, and not to mention shares and bonds and other things, and you tokenize them. So people can then exchange fractions of these or pledge them as collateral to obtain financing. And, you can do that instead of like crypto and stablecoin, you can do that with tokenized real assets and government-backed digital currency, for example. So, that's like my dream. But to do that, I think that would require participation from not just the financial regulators, but the other relevant government institutions in charge of certifying ownership of these assets, whatever that may be, and that might be an even bigger challenge given the silos that we already have in our government institutions. I went to give a talk last month at some university, and there were people who were interested in tokenizing the products from their trees, certain kinds of trees, and teak wood or other kinds of wood, and hope that they can use that for financing purpose. And but we would need to work on a lot of infrastructural things, the laws and laws on ownership and all that. So that's the big challenge, and so it's not easy, but there are already other countries experimenting with tokenization of these real assets, and I think looking at other countries for examples and inspiration might be a good starting point. Yeah.
Well, that's a very good point and a very good explanation of what we are facing right now. It's very interesting that you say that sometimes it stops, and it is in a lot of conversations whenever we talk about development or innovation, and that is how can the development go hand in hand with government regulations. But as we've seen in the past, is in history that whether you like it or not, innovation will find a way to come because people want it an easier way to life. Let's get a perspective from Kun Detapon here as the head of the strategic partnership of SCB 10X, and you are coming from the other side in terms of the private sector. Are you seeing any developments despite the fact that we've had, of course, challenges like any other country with regulating this new sector?
Yeah, so I think Thailand is one of the countries that I would say has a very good regulatory framework, although there are still a lot of hurdles. But I mean, I've seen still many other countries where they're still trying to figure out what all these means, right? So, I mean, SEC and DOT, I think they are very liberal, although there are a lot of hurdles that still need to be solved. But we're in one of the countries where regulator is very friendly to the business, and that's a big compliment to regulators. So maybe I'll share on the other side. I understand the question is around access to finance with regards to the economic growth, right? So. Maybe I'll share some of the figures, right? So in Thailand, bank penetration is pretty high comparing to the neighboring country. I believe we almost at 90% in terms of the people having bank accounts. So that's a very good job for the country. But I think in terms of the lending, only maybe a low teen or 20 something percent that people are able to get financing and lending. And that's still a number that we need to work on. And also investment and insurance, the wealth product is still single digits. So this part, I think financial literacy is still very important. And I think one of the key enabler to do all this, I think will be lie in the hand of the fintech who will, come up with the new ideas and new innovation and trying to get the customer or consumer into start understanding about financial product is not only about payment, right? There are also all sort of things like investment and insurance in which they can invest and make the money work for them, and insurance is a way to better manage the risk for if something happened in their life. And I think Thai people are not comparing to maybe other country that is more mature. I think this is still a very emerging market in which fintech are starting to come in and showing what the technology can help. For lending, I think it's a very important thing as well. So the unsecured lending, the reason why the penetration is very low is because the current credit underwriting model is still relying on the payslip and also the financial statement if it's for business. And I think China kind of showed us the new way of doing credit underwriting. Using alternative data, the transaction data. You can start using the machine learning and new kind of algorithm to make sense of the data and assess the creditworthiness of a customer without relying on the physical document of the payslip. I think that's what Thailand and I think many of the fintech should start looking at this, because there's a lot of people in Thailand who are not a corporate employee like me. So they don't have payslip, but doesn't mean that they're not super credit, but it just their income is elsewhere and there's no way to capture those information and use for the underwriting. So this kind of thing, I think, is something that as a country we should find ways how we can collaborate together between many players in the multiple industry to offer those underserved customer with the new kind of lending that would help them to start building their business or even sustain their lifestyle, especially in the COVID situation where everyone is impacted and people need lending more than ever. So something that
okay. We have a bit of
apology. So I think that's where there's a lot of opportunity in Thailand that we should be thinking about. Yeah.
I think that definitely it's a really good insight that you're talking about, along the lines with what has been said with Kun Tipsuda there, talking about how there are other ways of going about the traditional way of giving out loans, talking about loans and regulations itself. Let's try to talk again with Kun Achari. Sadika, can you hear us?
I think it's better now. Yeah. Sorry about earlier. Yep.
But you've been following our conversation, right, about
yes.
the developments of giving more access of finance to the people, and we do have a lot of benefits in terms of, as what Kun Dechapon said, was that we have a high percentage of penetration of everyone does have a bank account, but then of course we have a new generation of workers that may not have a pay slip. How close are we to the reality of using this new technology and new method of giving out loans?
Well, I think that's the direction that the BOT is heading. Like our former governor said quite often, how can the BOT ensure that, a lady selling omelette in front of 7-Eleven can gain access to, loans and financing, because she doesn't have pay slip and no data for banks to consider granting her loan application. So I think that's why the Bank of Thailand launched the digital personal lending using alternative data, and we've seen quite a lot of interest from the operators seeking out possibility if they can join the scheme and launch the product. So definitely that's the direction that the Bank of Thailand is heading. And I also agree with Kun Tipsuda that regulatory clarity and kind of like innovative regulation that supports innovation is needed, and definitely something that we as regulators can do better for Thailand. Some may think that why give fintech a chance when you can work with big banks and get more impacts. But I still think that if the use case are worth exploring, then that's definitely something that the BOT should keep in mind.
Oh, I like the term that you just said there, innovative regulation. I think we don't really hear that often, and it's really positive that we're hearing that there is an incentive for some more developments here in this field. Let's head on to another field that definitely everyone is aware of, and that is climate change. It is one of the biggest problems that we on Earth are facing globally. Every sector is trying to do their part and progressing towards trying to help develop the planet in a better, sustainable way. One thing is, though, we also need more money to invest in green technology. or green businesses. What can fintech do? What is its role in the call for a greener financing environment? Can I ask Kun Tipsuda first to give her comments?
Okay. Well, first, I have to caution here that I'm not an expert in the topic of technology with climate change, but if I have to give a comment on what role can fintech play, I can think of three roles. One, well, typically it would be the financing role, the financing mechanism, and similar to other ways of financing with banks and capital markets, financing for green projects or ventures. The missing component or a critical component would be the measurement of what's green, whether if people are going to invest in something green, they need to know that it's, if it's really green. And so in fintech, there could be other financing like crowdfunding, whether it's charity-based or equity-based or reward-based or, loan. But I guess the critical component that would have to be added on, and I'm not sure if we have that among fintech in Thailand yet, is the kind of specialized expertise for crowdfunding portals that could give an assessment of the project in terms of their impact, for that purpose, that green purpose. So that's one role that's not easy to fulfill. The second role would be in the monitoring and incentive mechanism, and you already see the use of blockchain for tracking the process for production and so on. So more of that, or tokens to keep track of maybe desirable behaviors among consumers or users of financial services, keep track of key outputs, in terms of keep track of reward that they earn from the desirable behaviors that would go along with their green motive. That would be another role that fintech, another thing that fintech could probably come in. And the third one is the marketplace, facilitating marketplace. And you already see that some countries have markets in carbon credits or markets to trade solar energy, for example. And I think that's another area that fintech can be helpful. Now, the important thing though is that, I keep saying this, I can't say it enough, the legal and regulatory clarity about these initiatives. The problem is not the outright prohibition, but rather not knowing what's permitted by multiple regulators, not just the financial regulators. For example, if you talk about trading solar energy, then we need to talk to the energy regulator. Is that possible? So the lack of clarity, legal and regulatory clarity, would hamper development if the uncertainty is so much that the people fear the legal cost, that it would outweigh the benefit. So.
Then that means I have to go to someone here that is very close to being a regulator. That's Kundata. We were listening to the conversation, right? There you go. Our problem of innovative ways, yet again, overlapping regulations, and how do we navigate it? How can we navigate through the regulations?
Well, I think definitely, we as regulators could use some help from the industry as well. Come talk to us and help us understand where and how we can be better and change the regulation to be more supportive while still tackling our concerns as regulators and especially as central bankers. I just moved here like earlier this year, and I see that there are many concerns since there are so many issues that they have to take care of. So now I think I can understand why there are concerns, but still working with the industry would be better for both sides.
Well, okay, I think that is a good point. I'm sorry to put you into the spot, but we do want to have a frank and a very
Sure.
Logical conversation. We have to keep on going with the next question. So, Kun Dejapona, I'm sorry, I have to skip you for a bit, but hopefully you can answer the next question. That is from your viewpoints. What are steps that Thailand has done well? Okay, let's think good things that we've done, and how can we actually further develop the digital identity infrastructure in terms of how can the private sector, both the local and foreign companies take part in developing the infrastructure. Can you give your say on this?
Yep. So I take it that when you talk about digital identity infrastructure, you meant the NDID project. So I think that is one of the I think it's one of the key projects that would make a big impact for the financial services in Thailand. And the reason why I say that is because KYC, AML regulation is one of the key things for financial services. And one of the things that I think the regulator together with the working team trying to create this is creating the framework and also put together a team to develop this infrastructure would enable any people to be able to do KYC and get on board into the financial services. So I think that's what's being done well, is the teamwork of all the relevant player in the market. What could further be improved, I would think, is how do we open this infrastructure up so any of the startup and also private company can use this infrastructure, and also maybe lowering the price for using the infrastructure. I think that well, the bank might not like that, but that's my view as a personal view. So the infrastructure is there. It's basically how do you have more people to use that service. I think that's the key thing that we need to think about how we can improve.
Oh,
Yes,
actually, yes. No, come jump in. Yep, definitely.
Okay, actually, I kind of like to hear that. I want to say that I like to hear that comment from a banking group, because I was involved before I left the SEC in the National Digital ID project as well, and I couldn't help thinking that it's a misnomer because you call it a National Digital ID, but it's actually a bank consortium run ID, and I have been hoping that they would open up access to wider use by non-banks, which I think they're beginning to. Price might be another topic. I want to give my piece here because
yes.
I'm also currently on the supervisory board of EDDA, and they are the regulator of the digital ID. So I just want to add that they are in the process of making rule for digital ID providers or service providers, and they're working closely with in their sandbox scheme with a variety of players from the government ID issuers, and this is also the missing piece. In the past, the Ministry of Interior did not want to join, did not want to do a digital ID for a long time. And I think that prompted the banks to have to undertake the NDID project. But now the Ministry of Interior is joining, is coming on board, and they're planning to do a digital version on the smartphones. And right now other government agencies are working with it, and there are other private sector ID providers who want to come in. And then so the question is, how do you ensure that they have a high standard of integrity, but yet are widely accessible and and open for people to other use case and applications to be built on top. And again, the clarity thing, regulatory clarity is very important. Back in April, when we were locked down and we couldn't hold a shareholders meeting for a long time, there were private sector players who wanted to experiment with this, and they did, but it's only an experiment among their group, and to be able to apply it to shareholders meeting fully, the e-voting with digital ID, they would need to make sure that it flies well with the Public Company Act and the Ministry of Commerce. At the same time, if they want to use it with say the unit holders, condominium unit holders meeting, they would need to comply with, say, the ministry, the land ministry, the land department. So you can see that every application would come with a possibility of violating or not being in compliance with some rules and regulation, which is not just financial regulator. So this is a bigger issue that you need to cut across this silo in the government services, and I guess EDDA would have to go and knock on doors of a lot of relevant authorities to make sure that this can happen.
คุณอาจารย์ลีคะ we have a small amount of time, but I do want you to have your say as well. I mean, we've heard a lot of different perspectives of what would be beneficial for the country. Maybe you can spend a little time about what is the main focus right now then towards moving towards what everyone wants to go towards in terms of developing the digital ID infrastructure.
Sure. For digital ID, I definitely agree that more use case, far more than financial services, would be needed, and that's actually the direction that we are trying to pursue. At least that's on Bank of Thailand list. When we are involved in driving this project, we are working with the government sector in trying to enable this for government services, and also trying to pursue on the corporate digital ID side as well. And I think that would be really beneficial. And also we're trying to have soft infrastructure in place, like guideline on biometrics technology and business rules and API standards and all those things. So I think it's still a journey, but we are moving towards the right direction at least.
Okay, and talking about moving towards the right direction, our last question for today is collaboration. Thailand has collaborated with other countries, both within the region and also from European countries such as the United Kingdom, to further the digitalization of financial services. How important do you think this is in developing our own technology and banking system? Let me start with Kun Atari first, with what she's seen so far.
I think the collaboration, especially with UK, like the top fintech enabler country, I think definitely at least on information sharing, on development best practices, guidelines. I think that's the least that we can collaborate, and I think regulators can also share regulatory framework and probably provide some cross-border mechanism to kind of like learn from each other and also, align business interests if there are any.
Okay. คุณเดชพล do you want to say something?
Yeah, I actually agree with Kunachari. So I think the key thing is there's no need to reinvent the wheel, whether it's regulation or some idea or learning. I mean, UK has been ahead of Thailand, I would say, in many fronts. So maybe learning from UK could kind of help speed up a lot of the things that we do today. And I think that speed up, I think that's the key that as a country we should be looking at. Yep.
Okay, and lastly, คุณดิษดาค่ะ
I want to say that UK has been an inspiration for us in our journey. In my last few years with the SEC, I've worked closely with the British Embassy, and they've invited us to visit the UK several times. And, a lot of our initiatives and inspiration came from those trips. And, I think it's great that, we get to share their experience and, learn from their experience, especially how they address the regulatory concerns without stifling innovation. I think they've done a great job. And, I think we need to follow their example on what they do to allow fintech companies and those especially who are not banks or big techs to thrive. So
thank you so much. I think that was well said. I think that in our seminar or our panel rather discussion about digital transformation and the Thai financial industry, it is definitely insightful. Even though it has been brief, I thank you so much for being very straightforward with us with your concerns and your expectations for the future. Thank you to all of our speakers today. ขอบคุณมากค่ะ
ขอบคุณค่ะ
All right, so that was our special roundtable with our experts from various sectors, whether they be from the private sector, from the association, in terms of dealing with fintech, and of course the authority themselves, the BOT. And we've definitely seen that there are concerns that there needs to be more speed in regulation to make sure that things get ahead and go forward with innovation with fintech. But at the same time, we're comforted that progress has been made and that there is a positive attitude towards the future that is to come.
To say that was a very engaging discussion, actually. Very, very nice to know and get update on the current situation and what happened on the Thai financial industry, and then find some problem and then figure it out together. Thank you very much for hosting this wonderful event session.
Thank you.
Thank you very much ค่ะ คุณชาวรัตน์ ยงจิรนนท์นะคะ and how about you? How was it? How was the discussion? Have you found that it's interesting, and did the discussion help answer your question or concern? But if you still have any question or concern, or if you would like to leave us some feedback, please feel free to put it in our chat box, and our staff will contact you back very soon. So what's up next will be, unfortunately, our last activity for today's webinar before entering into our financial inclusion section with Rails Bank. So I would like to present to you the elevator pitch of 15 UK company. Please enjoy.
Hello, welcome to Cube. My name is David Byron. Cube is a software as a service platform that provides continual updates of all regulation and notices from regulators associated with over 160 jurisdictions globally. And we also translate from 60 different languages back into English. Our platform provides the complete regulations from these jurisdictions and regulators, as well as notices. We break these down into citation level data, as well as map each of these citations to business activities, processes and products, and profile these individually for each of our customers in the financial services sector. Thank you. I look forward to talking to you in the near future.
Hello, my name is Siobhan Hartnell and I'm Sales Manager for APAC for FutureSpace. FutureSpace is a spin-out of Cambridge University and is built on 30 years worth of research into signal processing. We utilise our technology to solve some of the biggest challenges in fraud and financial crime for some of the world's largest institutions, including HSBC, NatWest and TSYS. Thank you.
Hi there, my name is Juan. I'm the CEO and co-founder at Finwood. Back in 2016, I started, along with my co-founders, a journey to create Finwood. Finwood is an enterprise software company that is focused on accelerating the adoption of blockchain technology. We have created a product we call Marco, which is a blockchain middleware and application suite. Marco takes the complexity out of blockchain and it enables our customers to very easily use this technology in their day-to-day operations. Some of our customers include blue chips like Repsol, Iberia, Under Armour, among many others.
Hi everyone, my name is Jessica and I represent FunApps. FunApps is a regulatory technology company and we are based out of UK. Our APAC headquarters is actually in Singapore and we've been in Singapore for the past 1.5 years now. We look after 3 areas of compliance, and that is shareholding disclosure, position limits, and sensitive industries. Our mission is to make compliance easy for all investment firms, and our clients range from hedge funds, asset managers, pension funds, banks, and more. We look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Global Processing Services, or GPS, is the issuer processor enabling many of today's most high-profile fintech innovators, e-wallets, and digital banks. What that means is we're the outsourced payments platform to leading fintechs and FIs globally, such as Revolut, Stocard, Curve, Starling Bank, Zinja in Australia, and WeLab in Hong Kong. We're certified by Visa and MasterCard globally to process and manage any credit, debit, or prepaid card transaction. GPS is relentlessly focused on accelerating the delivery of better financial experiences for everyone. And to do this, we're obsessed with enhancing our global platform whilst committed to deliver our services locally.
Hello, my name is Robin Lee, and I'm the VP of APAC for Napier Technologies. At Napier, we've designed an end-to-end RegTech platform that helps companies from all sectors to comply with anti-money laundering and terrorist financing regulations. We also introduce cost savings and increase operational efficiency, all with the unwavering objective to fight financial crime. As a result, our platform is not only powerful and sophisticated, but it's also really easy to use, providing functionality like transaction monitoring, screening for both clients and payments, and artificial intelligence. To learn more about us, please do check us out at napier.ai. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Urvashi Gupta. You can call me Urvi. I'm the regional manager for Onfido in Southeast Asia, and we actually cover North Asia and Australia, New Zealand as well out of our office in Singapore. As some of you may be aware, Onfido is a digital identity verification provider. We're headquartered in London, about 8 years old, and we've been lucky enough to grow to about 450 people spread across 8 offices globally. So within Southeast Asia, we are working with lots of customers in the region, ranging from traditional banks to challenger banks, cryptocurrency players, as well as sharing marketplaces, really any business that's trying to verify the identity of its users while they're logging on during the onboarding process. And I'm really excited to be here today and hear all of the speakers, and please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions about Onfido at all. Thank you.
Rosebank was established in the UK with a mission to be the category leader that enables any business or brand to rapidly prototype, launch, and scale financial products globally. Southeast Asia is unique because every market is different. So we enter every market in a smart way. Broadly speaking, we enter new markets with our customers, set up local licenses, and then build out a local team. Financial inclusivity is a watchword for Railsbank. We aim to make the financial services industry more relevant to more people throughout the world. The growth will come from local and regional micro and macro trends, like regulators changing rules on banking, increasing adoption of super apps and e-wallets. We are confident that Railsbank is in a great position to capitalize on this emerging future. Thank you.
Hi there. Great to be here and participating with you on the UK ASEAN FinTech series. Regulative is a new product company that provides cybersecurity governance solutions for regulators, non-profits, and corporates of all sizes. We use some of the new innovative cloud and AI technologies for the solutions. In this COVID-19 world, are you experiencing an increase in cyber threats to your organization? Now more than ever, companies and regulators need first-class oversight of these challenges to protect your customers and communities. Our products can help monitor and strengthen your cybersecurity standards and controls, identify where there are gaps in cyber defenses, and reduce operating costs significantly. Come and talk to us to find out how we can help you with optimizing your cybersecurity compliance for your organization. Thanks.
Revolut is a financial services super app that gives you the power to spend, transfer, and manage your money at radically better rates. We are one of Europe's fastest growing fintechs, with presence in 35 markets and counting. Our incredible technology has enabled us to attract over 13 million users worldwide, and our ambition is to continue to expand our global footprint, including here in Asia. Revolut is more than a multi-currency travel card with fantastic FX rates. We also offer commodities, crypto, trading, and business accounts, all of which we plan to bring to Asia. So, on behalf of Revolut, we'd like to invite you to join us on this journey. We'd love to have you on board and for our partners to enjoy the benefits of this global platform we're building.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be with you at today's event. My name is John Burvin, and I'm the APAC head of Solidatus. Solidatus helps to model complicated business and data flows, and we can use these to help comply with regulation, to change systems and processes, and to govern those systems and processes too. By creating the ability to reuse this information, we can significantly reduce costs from data projects. Thank you very much.
I'm the founder of Social. We have redesigned insurance to be consumer-centric as we are on a mission to restore consumer trust in insurance globally. We've developed a solution for consumers in insurance, which is a win-win insurance model where it's amazing if you need us, 10 times faster claims than anybody else. And if you don't need us, it's up to 80% money back every year if you and your friends don't claim. We've started our revolutionary model with mobile phone insurance in the UK, and we are launching home content early next year. We're keen to be exploring opportunities in Southeast Asia as we are got a insurance as a service solution, which allows us to plug into distribution and the local underwriting balance sheet in a kind of SaaS type model. Love to have a conversation about bringing insurance to you.
Hi, my name is Nick Wild and I am the Asia Pacific Managing Director of Thought Machine. Thought Machine is a UK-born fintech that provides a cloud-native, cloud-agnostic, real-time, fully API-enabled core banking platform which provides for financial services as code. That means banks can design, build and launch unique financial services in days and weeks rather than current timeline of months and years. From opening at the start of this year, we are already a team of 40 people in region and working with banks in Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia and Thailand. We're delighted to be part of this UK government initiative and I can be contacted via my LinkedIn profile if what we have is of interest to you. Look forward to speaking.
Hi, this is Mattia and I'm responsible for the Asia Pacific region at TradeTech, a company that I contributed to create a few years ago in London. TradeTech is the global hub for the distribution of banks' originated assets. It provides banks with the ability to syndicate exposure, repackage assets into tradable notes, and transfer risk using credit insurance. We provide banks and investors with an end-to-end solution for the automation of workflow management, document generation, reporting, note repackaging, and machine learning-based credit analytics. The company management brings a wide range of experiences in capital markets, legal and financial technology, having worked for organizations such as Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, Bank of America, and Trafigura. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Anna Hibino from TransferWise and I currently lead our expansion efforts into Thailand and Vietnam.
My name is Elian Fitono from TransferWise. I'm here with Anna Hibino. TransferWise is a global tech company building the best way to move money around the world. I'm currently expansion lead for TransferWise in Southeast Asia region, working in markets like Indonesia and Philippines. Our goal for this region is to bring our services to as many customers as possible and offer them a cheap, fast, convenient, and transparent services to move money.
How was it? Some of the pitches were just captivating, right? We are really pleased to be sharing this experience for you, indeed. All right, and lastly, before we leave today, Rails Bank would like to share the experience and expertise with you in the topic of financial inclusion. Please welcome Mr. Justin Chiao, COO Southeast Asia, Rails Bank.
Sawadee Krab. I'm happy to talk about financial inclusion because it is one of the core beliefs that I have and we have at Rails Bank. Let's start by looking at what financial inclusion means. Financial inclusion is when everybody, individuals and companies, have access to financial services and information at low cost and in a well-regulated environment. Over the past year, COVID has taught us that financial inclusivity is fragile and can be easily disrupted. Segments of the population can become financially excluded and vulnerable. Let me give you some common examples of financial inclusion. In the UK, there are around 50 million people over 60 years old. 4.5 million of these folks do not have easy access to digital financial services. Increasingly though, financial services are going digital. We see that in this highly networked countries, even in the likes of Singapore. And oftentimes, financial inclusion is incorrectly associated with developing economies. In fact, large segments of developed economies also have unmet needs. They should not be overlooked. In Thailand, there are 2 million Burmese migrant workers. Many of these migrant workers don't have the necessary documentation needed to open bank accounts. As a result, they operate under informal and sometimes predatory systems to send money back home. More broadly, there are also instances when there is financial access, but segments of the population remain underserved or misserved. Again, in Thailand, as discussed at the roundtable earlier, 97% of these people have access to financial services, but many of them, and this is around 50% of the population, don't take up loans. And in China, peer-to-peer lending platforms have operated under loose regulations. As a result, people have lost life savings. There was a wave of crackdown last year, and about 1.5 billion of assets were frozen. To make a significant and meaningful impact, we need to address the various needs of these different population segments. There's no one-size-fits-all solution. It is clear that the traditional banking sector alone cannot address these different financial needs. Therefore, the private sector needs to play a critical role in addressing the problem of financial inclusion alongside the support of the public sector. Let me share 2 examples of private sector initiatives to address financial inclusion. During the COVID lockdown in the UK, musicians and other industry workers found themselves unable to play at live shows and unable to work from home, effectively having no source of income. Very quickly, the British Association of Industry Music, known as AIM, pledged £500,000 to support these folks during the pandemic. They had to disperse the funds to the right person safely and securely in a period of lockdown. During this time, Lightning Aid was a platform that enabled governments, organizations, and community groups to disperse aid and manage payments at speed and scale. The main benefits were threefold of this platform. 1, rapid creation of regulated accounts and payments which allowed funding to be dispersed or received. 2, virtual and physical cards for vulnerable beneficiaries to purchase essentials and for volunteers to purchase on their behalf. And 3, a digital banking app and dashboard to manage, track, and reconcile funds. In Thailand, mom and pop food sellers and other micro merchants did not have access to tourists and locals who prefer to use their credit cards or other forms of electronic payments to pay for their food. Through a government initiative and learning from India's success, Thailand became the second country in the world to adopt a national standardized QR code for payments. This was possible because of the participation from industry partners. A new method and solution were created that targeted electronic payment acceptance for micro merchants at scale. In addition, new industry pricing was introduced to support the cost of acceptance. And as mentioned earlier by Kunarchari from Bank of Thailand, now when you go into Bangkok, you're able to use Thai QR to pay for your street food. This has made a dramatic difference to the food sellers and over 6 million merchants in Thailand. It is up to the private sector to come up with an ecosystem of financial solutions to meet the needs of the different population segments. This is especially true in heterogeneous economies in Southeast Asia. The role of the public system should foster a conducive environment which can be achieved by strategic public policy, flexibility, and regulatory sandboxes to test new solutions. This is what Rails Bank set out to achieve. As a company, we believe that access to financial services should be a human right and not just for the privileged. The Rails Bank founders set out on a journey to deliver on the promise of financial inclusion. The objective was to leverage the power of digital technologies to enable democratized access to financial services and change the financial industry economics. We provide a platform that can empower any business to build and integrate any financial use case directly into their addressable customer segment and customer journey. And back to the example of Lightning Aid, the platform was built on top of Rails Bank API. In merely 8 days, Rails Bank and others within the fintech community built Lightning Aid to distribute financial support directly to those in need across the UK. And to allow for the variety of solutions, Rails Bank has changed the industry economics. For example, the unit operational cost of an account on Rails Bank is significantly cheaper than a traditional bank. We further unbundle all the products so customers can actually buy the products they need, as opposed to setting with products they were given or with unnecessary features and embedded costs. And our cost structure enables financial inclusion and new business models to emerge. Because we facilitate companies to build a financial services use case they always imagined, build at a price point that is transformational, build at a pace that was previously unimaginable, enable any fungible assets to be a financial product. And with all that, to be able to scale across borders. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Justin Chiu, CEO of Southeast Asia Rails Bank. Well, I have to confess, this is my first time actually to hear about the word financial inclusion. Yeah, and truly understand about it. Yes, it is the problem that everyone have to put your hands in and help each other to tackle the problem, no matter they are public sector or private sector, and Rails Bank is in there, of course. So yeah, I believe everyone is on it now, and yeah, the situation should getting better and better for like Thailand and everyone in Southeast Asia. Thank you very much, Justin, for sharing.
Thank you.
And that is all for UK FinTech webinar, Digital Transformation of the Thai Financial Industry. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching and for joining the session in our today's webinar. Thank you, British Embassy Bangkok, the Bank of Thailand, Thai FinTech Association, SCB 10X, Rails Bank, and Techsauce for making this webinar happen and share your insightful thoughts, information, useful guidelines, and inclusions. I hope to see you all again in our next occasion. And yeah, have a nice day, everyone. Goodbye.